I used to think my marriage was unshakable. For years, I truly believed I had found the perfect partner, someone who loved me unconditionally, someone who made me feel safe and secure in ways I never thought possible. My husband, Daniel, was kind, reliable, funny in his own quiet way, and he treated me with a respect I'd never known in any other relationship. When we got married, I remember looking at him at the altar and thinking, this is it. This is forever. For a long time, it was everything I imagined. We built a comfortable life together. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. We had our little routines. Saturday morning coffee runs, lazy Sunday afternoons on the couch, evenings cooking dinner side by side in the kitchen while laughing at some dumb inside joke that no one else would understand. He knew all my quirks, all my flaws, and he still loved me anyway. That kind of acceptance made me feel invincible, like no matter what, Daniel would always be there. But somewhere along the line, I started to get restless. I don't even know when it really began. Maybe it was after 5, 6, 7 years of marriage. Maybe it was just the monotony of routine. Maybe it was my own selfishness, my inability to just be satisfied with something good. I love Daniel, but I started wondering if love was supposed to feel more exciting. I began comparing my marriage to others, or worse, to the fictional couples I'd binge watch on Netflix dramas. I'd scroll through social media and see friends traveling the world with partners who looked like models, couples who seemed to live these vibrant, passionate lives full of constant adventure. And then I'd look at myself and Daniel, sitting in our pajamas, eating takeout, talking about bills, and I couldn't help but feel like something was missing. That was when the idea of an open relationship first entered my head. I'd read stories online about couples who swore it saved their marriages, who said it brought them closer together by eliminating jealousy and insecurity. People wrote about freedom, about rediscovering themselves outside of the traditional boundaries of marriage. And instead of being cautious, instead of questioning whether that kind of arrangement was actually right for us, I latched onto it like it was some magic solution. I told myself it wasn't about not loving Daniel. I told myself it was about growth, about exploration, about giving myself permission to be more than just a wife. And when I first brought it up to Daniel, I expected resistance. I expected a fight. I expected him to be angry, jealous, even hurt. But he wasn't. I'll never forget the night I suggested it. We were sitting on the couch, a bottle of wine between us, and I half joked, you know, some couples do this thing where they open the marriage a little, just to keep things fresh. Daniel looked at me for a long moment, then simply nodded and said, if that's what you want, we can talk about it. It stunned me. Part of me felt relieved, part of me felt validated. I took his calmness as acceptance, as understanding. I thought it meant he was secure enough in us to handle it. What I didn't realize was that his silence wasn't approval. It was resignation. He loved me so much that he was willing to give me what I thought I wanted, even if it broke him inside. We set rules. We told ourselves we'd be honest, that communication was key. We agreed it would just be casual, nothing emotional, nothing serious. Just experiences. And at first, it was exhilarating. The attention from new men made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. I felt desirable, wanted, like I had rediscovered some version of myself I thought I'd lost. But with every new fling, I noticed Daniel becoming quieter. He'd smile and pretend everything was fine, but there was a heaviness in his eyes that I ignored. When I came home from a date, he'd ask me if I had fun, and I'd chirp back yes, without really looking at him. I didn't want to see the pain on his face. I didn't want to admit to myself that what I was doing was hurting him. Still, I told myself it was working. I told myself our marriage was stronger because Daniel and I were still together, still going through the motions of husband and wife. We still laughed sometimes, still shared meals, still kissed goodnight. I convinced myself that his quietness was just his way of processing, that he'd eventually come around. But one night, everything shattered. I had been seeing a man, let's call him Mark, for a couple of months. It was supposed to be casual, but emotions got messy. He made me feel things I hadn't felt in a long time, and I got carried away. I stayed out later and later, sometimes not coming home until dawn. I lied about where I was going, about how much time I was spending with him. And eventually, Daniel found out the truth. Not just about Mark, but about the fact that I had broken every rule we'd set. I came home one night to find Daniel sitting at the kitchen table, a letter in front of him. His wedding ring sat next to it. He looked at me with a kind of calmness that terrified me more than if he'd screamed. "I can't do this anymore," he said. "I thought I could handle it because I love you. But watching you fall in love with someone else while you still wear my ring, I can't be that man anymore." I begged. I cried. I dropped to my knees and told him I was sorry, that it was a mistake, that I never meant to hurt him. And I wasn't lying. I hadn't wanted to lose him. I wanted both. The safety of Daniel and the excitement of someone else. I wanted to be selfish and still be loved unconditionally. But Daniel wasn't angry. He wasn't cruel. He just looked tired, broken in a way I had never seen. "You asked for freedom," he said, "so I'm giving it to you." And with that, he left. I thought maybe he'd come back after a few days. I thought maybe he'd cool down, that we'd talk it through, that he'd forgive me like he always had before. But days turned into weeks turned into months, and he never came back. The divorce papers arrived neatly in the mail. No angry note attached, no last words. Just finality. At first, I tried to distract myself with the men I'd been seeing. I told myself I was living the life I had asked for, that I was finally free. But the thrill wore off quickly. None of them loved me like Daniel did. None of them cared about the little things. How I liked my coffee, the songs that made me cry, the way I hated thunderstorms but secretly loved the sound of rain. To them, I was just a body, just a temporary fling. And when the novelty wore off, they moved on. Meanwhile, Daniel built a new life. I saw glimpses of it on social media, even though I tortured myself by looking. He smiled more. He traveled. He spent time with friends I had selfishly pushed away during our marriage. And eventually, there was someone new by his side. She looked at him the way I used to, with awe and adoration. And the worst part? He looked back at her with the same tenderness he once reserved only for me. It's been over a year now, and I still wake up sometimes reaching for him, only to find the empty side of the bed. I still catch myself cooking too much food because I forget I'm only cooking for one. I still wear the sweater he left behind because it smells faintly like him, even though I've washed it 100 times. People like to say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. But I always knew what I had. I just thought it would last no matter what I did. I thought Daniel's love was unbreakable, that he would always forgive me. I thought I could bend him without ever breaking him. But I was wrong. And now I live every day with the knowledge that I destroyed the one good thing I ever had, all because I wanted more. Because I was too blind, too selfish, too foolish to realize that what I had was already enough. And no matter how much I wish I could take it back, no matter how much I regret it, the truth is simple. I asked for freedom, and Daniel gave it to me, forever.